Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Steel Vampire, an awesome and intricate bullet hell on the PC. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Akira Goya and publisher Hetako Dojin, Steel Vampire released on Steam in November of 2018. This is a title that's been on my radar since that time. I just didn't pick it up until just barely. And it's a great time to do so, as during the Steam Summer Sale, Steel Vampire is currently half its list price of $9.99 US, so $4.99. And it's definitely been an awesome title to experience. So this is more of a first impressions video, as I haven't spent a lot of time with it, but there's really a lot to this game, so let's get started. Here we are at the main menu. So there's the upgrade part, which is one of the features I really love about this game. So throughout the course of your gameplay, you'll be picking up weapons and just basically filling up this screen with different types of weapons that you're going and picking up. You've got your main weapon, different kinds of sub-weapons, and different kind of option formations. It's really neat just how much extra content there is in the game. In addition, you can also obtain materials from both fighting through the stages, as well as selling unnecessary weapons to get the materials to buy these support items, which you'll be able to go and turn on at the beginning of your runs. So in addition to that, the game itself is relatively bare bones when it comes to the way that it's configured, and there's one or two options that I would like to see in the game that just aren't present. As we start the game itself, it does have a tutorial, which is actually a really nice tutorial, with one exception. So the game has a lot of intricate systems, and the tutorial teaches you about the gameplay itself. It does a good job about that, with the exception that it goes and puts a text box at the top of the center gameplay area, blocking quite a bit of it from view. So that's a little bit of a problem. The game only has two difficulties, Very Hard and Genocide, at least at this point. I haven't unlocked anything beyond that. The Genocide Hard unlocks after your first playthrough of Very Hard, which is the default difficulty. Once you select your difficulty, you're taken to this loadout screen. And here we can go and once again go to the weapons screen, where we can pick which weapons we want to use. And we can also choose which support items we're using and power them up. So you can choose what level you want them. At this point I just have Chip Attract level 1, which will attract the various chips towards me, and by turning it on, that actually decreases our score rate. So that's something to keep in mind. The better weapons you have, the better items you have, the lower your score rate will be. Once we select start, we're taken to yet another screen, and this one is great. So the game has a shield system rather than lives, and once you run out of shields, it's game over, and you start at one of the checkpoints of the stage. But once you've hit a checkpoint, you can start your gameplay at any checkpoint you've reached, and I think that's amazing to be able to do that. We also have a little bit of a description of some of the items that you get in the game itself. There's the combat logs, which are very important, as this game has a rank system for it to make its difficulty kind of scale. So you can control either lower or higher, as it says here, your rank with picking up certain power-ups. We also have the weapons that we're picking up, and then there's those heart and diamond chips, which regenerate the shields, and the Voburn, which is our bomb, respectively. So we'll start, of course, on stage 1, checkpoint 1. So the game itself is a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up, although one thing that's interesting about that is there's no option for tate, and the screen itself is a little squished, so that could be a potential problem. So we have the ability to move around, and our shot has a couple different modes. So if we tap fire, we get our usual like rapid fire shot. If we hold down the button, it switches over to our sub weapon, which in this case is the one that I have equipped, is this awesome beam. So that when you're using your sub weapon, you're also moving in focus mode, so it's easier to go and dodge around some bullet patterns. But in a lot of ways, I kind of feel that it makes this game a little bit harder, and part of that is because we actually have what feels to me at least, a fairly large hitbox. So we're already to the sub-boss of the stage, Annihilation Fish, Top Minnow. So in addition to our main weapon and our sub-weapon, we also have the Voburn Bomb. So that's actually just a local bomb which will only deal damage in the local area. It also takes care of clearing bullets during that in that space, but it does last for a little bit of time. So both our bombs and our shields will regenerate over time. This is something that's important to keep in mind. So the bombs regenerate by picking up the diamonds that enemies drop. Those diamonds are these yellow chips that we might occasionally see from larger enemies. And our shields will regenerate with the blue chips that we go and see. Those are heart chips. The shields do automatically regenerate a little bit on their own as well, so that is something to keep in mind. And as we collect items, we will also earn additional Voburns, additional bombs, and additional shields if we continue to play well. So as I mentioned, the game has a rank system that it uses for difficulty. So we have power-ups that will both lower our rank as well as increase our rank. In addition to that, the rank is always increasing on its own. That's the meter all the way to the left. You might notice that there's a small green bar that's always like scrolling up, and that's controls our rank. At rank 30, the game becomes more difficult, and the higher the rank goes, the more difficult it gets, but also the higher your score. So here we are at the boss of stage 1. So we'll use everything in our inventory to go and take him out as quickly as possible. Well, a little bit late on that bomb, but that's alright. I think we can still get him. So, especially the sub-boss and the main bosses will drop weapon containers that will give us weapons that we'll be able to see what they are after we clear the run, or rather, after we get a game over. The further we get into the game, the better the weapons. So at this point, I was just picking up level 1 weaponry, and from this point on, it should go and be some that are a little bit difficult. So through collecting power-ups, I was able to get a shield, an additional shield. So it's like getting a 1-up, but you don't have that 1-up right away. You have to go and fill up the bar. So let's talk about some of the other things that are going on. So as you might have noticed, I've been picking up these shield medals the entire time. Those shield medals are, well, they're points, but they also control how much each heart chip that we get goes and refills our life. So it's pretty important to pick those up. They will decrease in power, or rather size, if we go and take damage, or if any of them happen to go and fall off the screen. So that's something to keep an eye out for. If you're not careful and things have gotten difficult, it's actually pretty easy to take a loss of life. We'll just go ahead and jump right back in. The continuing is pretty fast. So the last thing I haven't explained is actually one of the things that's core to the gameplay of Steel Vampire. So the game is actually working on this system that rewards you for short range or close range combat with the enemy ships. So the closer you are to the enemies when you're fighting them, the more rewards that they'll drop. This is partially made possible by the fact that you don't take damage by coming into contact with enemies. You only take damage from enemy shots. So if you know the enemy patterns and you're good at dodging the bullets that are incoming, you can actually score a lot of points and get a lot of items off the enemies really quickly. But it is a high risk system, so you better be willing to put in the time to learn what you need to survive in this game. And I believe that's everything. There we have it. Steel Vampire served up for your enjoyment. So let's talk a little bit about the flavors of the game. My big minus flavor that I have is the fact that there is no rapid fire. So as I was mentioning, the main shot is tap fired off of your fire button, and your sub-weapon is holding it down. I really wish there was the option to have a rapid fire button so you could always go and be firing your main weapon rather than switch over to your sub-weapon. That's just a preference that is like happens to go and be present in a lot of games, and I feel that this one would benefit greatly for it. Then I would also, this is more me, but I just have a problem with the like large size of the hitbox. It just feels like it's always getting me. Then like I think I can go and squeeze past enemy bullets, and I can't because our hitbox is actually fairly large. But that's just one thing to go and get used to, and also maybe getting used to using the Voburn bombs as a more defensive item, even though in the tutorial it specifically notes that it is not a defensive item, it is an offensive item. And then the last complaint I have is, it's the whole being a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up but not having a Tate perspective means everything kind of feels a little bit squished. And so, like, you can't see as much of the enemies coming at you, or you have as much to range to see what's coming from the various, both front and behind you. Especially in a shoot 'em up where you kind of want to be in the middle of the screen so you can get close to enemies and destroy them in the fastest way possible. It seems like an odd choice. But as far as the plus flavors are concerned, I love how this game has like so many different deep, intricate systems. So the way that you go and recover both your bombs and your health is awesome. Recovering slowly over time, or being able to go and recover them throughout the course of gameplay, is great. Being able to go and manipulate your score and your difficulty through like a really visible rank system is really nice, as there are plenty of other games that do employ a rank system, but sometimes that information isn't necessarily directly visible to the player. And then we have all the different weapons we're picking up and the ability to go and upgrade the support items that we can potentially purchase as well. Those make for really fun systems, and for the short time that I've been playing this game, it's been one that I'm really interested in pushing further in, as I really, really like what's here. So especially if you're going and seeing this review the week that it comes out, and you're interested in picking up this game, it is available on the Steam sale for half off. Alright, well, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.